Hello, boys and girls. I hope today is a very beautiful day for you, but some days they aren't beautiful. Some days are stormy, and some days the lightning and the thunder can get really loud. Like this past week, we were in a thunderstorm, and the thunder went boom, and the house shook. Oh boy, the house shook. And I don't know where my cat went, but she probably ran and hid. So I'm going to talk about storms because sometimes, we can get very afraid in a storm, but Jesus reminds us that he is with us in that scary moment. So I'm going to start with when I was a little girl, my dad and mom loved to go to the beach in the summer. And I was at the beach and there were some waves and my mother said, "Oh, if you bring her in the water, you better keep an eye on her. Those waves are pretty high." And my dad said, "She'll be fine." So we got into the ocean and the waves were jumping over waves, jump over the waves, jump over the waves. Well, one of the waves was so big, my daddy, I think, had me on his shoulders and the wave knocked me off. And I went round and round in the wave and I tried to grab something to hold on to. And I grabbed tight to something. And I don't know what it was, but I know that the wave went out and then I could stand up. And then my mother was at the edge of the beach screaming, "Bring her in! Bring her in!" And they scooped me up and they brought me in. And everyone said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I was fine." And my father said, "Something was holding on to my toe." And I said, "That was me, Daddy. I was holding on to your toe." Well, sometimes in life, things can turn us around and seem very challenging. And we have to hold on to our Heavenly Father's toe. We hold on to Jesus. We ask for his anchor, for his stability, for his help in our times of scary need where a storm comes or something that is very hard for us. It's hard for us, it's never too hard for God. So I'm going to tell you one more about a little boy that got afraid. Now, I wasn't afraid that time. I don't think I knew enough how to be afraid. But I was all grown up now and I was babysitting for my friend's boy, Nick and Alex, her two boys, and I had two girls. So Nick and Alex and Heidi and Rachel, we were having a really fun morning and we put on the radio just to see what the news was because we heard that there was a weather pattern coming. We heard on the weather that there was a tornado warning, and we had to listen for a signal that told us when it was near us, and we'd have to go into the basement. So I had the radio on to listen for the warning. Well, Nick, he was only 5 years old, and he started to have a panic attack. A tornado! A tornado is coming! I'm so scared! I'm so scared! And his whole body was shaking. And I said, "Nick, Nick, Nick, come over here. Let me hold you in my lap and let me tell you a story." And he sat in my lap. He didn't usually sit in my lap because he's 5 years old, but he sat in my lap and I sort of rocked him just a little bit. And I said, "Nick, do you know what? Once in the Bible, Jesus was in a storm and it was so bad that the disciples that were in the boat couldn't make the boat go right. They were the wind was about to take the sails and knock the ship right over. And the waves were so high. And where was Jesus?" And you know the answer? If you know, he was sleeping in the boat. He'd had a long day of ministering to people, and he was just resting in his Father's trusting care, not frightened, not worried, just resting. And the disciples woke him up and said, "Help, help us." And Jesus raised his hand. And what did he say to the storm? "Peace, be still." And just as he said that, the wind died down, the waves calmed down, and the disciples looked at him and thought, what kind of a power you have that you could calm the storm? Now, as I was telling this to Nick, his little heartbeat that was racing was getting calmer and calmer. And then the radio said, the tornado warning is past and you don't have to go to your basement. And it was all over and we weren't scared. But I had the chance to tell Nick that it is Jesus that keeps us safe. And so my children, they used to have a little song at church that we'd sing that was about Jesus in the vessel, like we make a like sail. Jesus in the vessel, you can smile at the storm, smile at the storm, smile at the storm. With Jesus in the vessel, you can smile at the storm as we go sailing by. Sailing, sailing by, sailing, sailing by. With Jesus in the vessel, you can smile at the storm as we go sailing by. So that was our little kid song. But after that in life, there are many times that we get into storms. And so I just wanted you to know about one more. So I live in a place in New England, Massachusetts. And sometimes we have tornado warnings. And we don't live in Kansas where there really are tornadoes. So it's a big surprise. Like a tornado is coming? Well, I had some students living here with me from Ghana and from France. And let's see, Tina was from China or Korea. Tina was from Korea. We had Chinese students too. And the students were high school students and they were living here. And we heard about the tornado warning. And we went down to my basement and we got under our ping pong table. And they brought their little backpacks and they sat there with little juice drinks and popcorn and acted like they weren't afraid at all. Now, why weren't they afraid? Well, probably because inside their heart, they felt safe. And God wants us to be wise about storms, but to know that if we're always in prayer and in harmony with God, He will protect us and He will help us to know what to do to be safe in storm. But one day during these tornado seasons, I was out at a lady's house. She was in her 90s. She was a very elderly lady, but boy, did she have a story to tell me. She said, Marilyn, in 1953, my whole house was wiped out by a tornado. I said, what? Really? Her name was Lillian. And Lillian said, oh, I will never forget because Jesus was with us. Jesus was with you? Tell me more. Well, she said, I had 3 children and all of a sudden outdoors it started to rain and the rain turned into hail. Hail is like big icy snowballs. She said one of them was so big. I went outside to get it. I was going to bring it in and put it in my freezer to show my husband when he got home. Well, I went to put it in the freezer and a little voice stopped me and said, take the children down to the basement right now. So I said, Richard, Catherine, Susan, we're going to the basement now. Let's go. And we started down the stairs. And all I remember is that we were all going down the stairs when kaboom! The tornado took off the whole roof of the house. The top of the house collapsed down and they were thrown down the rest of the basement stairs. And she thinks that maybe she was knocked out for a minute. When she opened her eyes, she looked over at her son, Richard, and Richard was saying, dear Jesus, please be with us. Please help us. And she looked at her other children and they were fine. And She said, but Richard, you have like a cut on your head. I'm gonna. And she took her shirt and she ripped up a piece of her shirt, like piece of her white blouse, and she started to make a tourniquet and wrap it around her son's head like this. Oh, thank you, Mommy. But Mommy, your arm is bleeding, he said. And she said there was a slice in her arm, and she went, it's okay. It's okay. And she held it together. And then they prayed and they waited, and the emergency crew came and found them and brought them all to the hospital where they were all stitched up and they were fine. But she never forgot that. She used to go to the kindergarteners and tell them about the day that she was saved from a tornado. And the children would say, Lillian, Mrs. Lillian, who told you to go to the basement? How did you know? And Lillian said, my guardian angel. My guardian angel was with me and whispered to me, go to the basement. So isn't that nice? That God is, even in our stormy life, where sometimes it's not great weather, that God is with us. And of course, we know in heaven, we're going to have the most beautiful weather. The planet will be in a perfect state, not on an axis, according to Lillian, but the new heaven and the new earth, it will be a perfect paradise. And we look forward to that. But for now, we will go through some storms, and we know that Jesus is our anchor. He's like the toe we can hold on to, and he'll protect us. So I am going to sing a song for you with my guitar that my children used to like to sing with me. It's a promise about what heaven will be like, and also how we feel afraid right now in a storm. Can you hear that? The thunder and lightning gave voice to the night. A little small child cried aloud in her fright. Hush, little baby, a story I will tell of a love that has vanquished the powers of hell. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Sweetness in the air and justice on the wind. Laughter in the house where the mourners have been. The deaf shall have music, the blind have new eyes. The standards of death taken down by surprise. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Want to sing it with me? Ready? Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. One more time, ready? Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Hush, little baby, let go of your fears. The Lord loves his own, and your mother is near. The child fell asleep as the lantern did burn, and the mother sang on. winds return. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and you will fly. And you will have wings. The little children, according to what Ellen White wrote, they will have little wings and they will be able to fly up to Jesus. And we that look up to Jesus will say, are you sure we're covered by your grace? Us? And Jesus will look and smile and say, my grace is sufficient for you. Come on up. And he won't come down and put his feet on the earth, will he? No, no. We will go up to him. Isn't that a wonderful promise? That on that day, we will be so glad that we stayed faithful and waiting and believing in God, even when sometimes the storms made us afraid and some hard things happen. God comforts and he is with us. So that is my little story about the storm. And I hope that you enjoyed it and will remember that song. Okay. Hi again. How are you? Boys and girls, did you ever ask your mom, where's God? Where does he live? What's it like where God is? A lot of children wonder that. And someone once had a little joke about how a little boy was afraid to go in the pantry because it was dark. And his mother said, can you go in there and get me a, a box of cereal? And the boy said, Mom, is God everywhere? And mother said, yes, he is. So the boy opened the pantry door and said, God, will you give me that box of cereal? I don't want to go in there. Oh, so that's how children think. But actually, I used to teach a classroom of children, and they put their names on the back of their pictures. And there was a song by Bonnie Casey and by a group called Take Three. And this is the name of the song. Now, if you're an artist, maybe you could make a really nice picture that goes with this song. The name of the song is Where Does God Live? And it looks like in the picture, the little boy is looking here and he's looking there. He's looking everywhere. Where does God live? He says, it starts like this. The boy is sitting on his daddy's knee. And I'll be singing this for you after. But here's the boy. Don't you love what the children drew? And he says, Daddy, if you were God, where would you be? Daddy, would you live in a cloud? How do you like this cloud? Wait a minute. Maybe this light is reflecting too much. Oh. Would you live in a cloud, Daddy? Uh-oh. Yeah, I see the light reflecting. I've got to. Paul, can you put on the overhead light? Would you live in a cloud? Look at the angels on the cloud. Can you see that? Yeah, that's a little better, I think. Or, Daddy, would you live in a church? Maybe you'd live in a church. I mean, that's where we go to worship God. So that must be where you live, where God lives, right? Or, Daddy, maybe you'd like to be in a boat on the sea. That's where my daddy liked to be. Oh, there it is. Yeah, living on the water all the time. Or Daddy, maybe you'd like to live in a tree. How about a sycamore tree? Those are fun to climb. Want to live in a tree, Dad? What do you think, Daddy? Would you live in a tree? Well, Daddy had an answer. He said, clouds might be fine, but they don't leave heaven. And churches, they're empty 6 days out of 7. There's not much to do in a boat on the sea. And no, I don't think I'd live in a tree. Well, where does God live, Daddy? Where does he go? I've tried to find him. I really want to know. I looked for him here and I looked for him there and I looked just about everywhere. Where'd he go? Where is he? And the father says, oh, this is the one picture of where does God live, Daddy? My classmates, my children, my students made lots of pictures. So the father said, come with me, my son. Come out to the well. Okay, why are we going to the well? Is God going to be there? And then he says, now, my son, you can travel the sea or the sod, the whole earth over. You can find many things, but you'll never find God. Is that true? He says, if you look deep in the water of the well, what do you see? Well, Daddy, I only see me. And then Daddy said, you will find Jesus can be living in you. That's where God is. When you invite Jesus into your heart, he's living in you. And he's not far, the Bible says. He's not far from every one of us. And that's a promise. I'm with you always. I'm always with you, even to the end of the earth. And I can dwell with you. I can live with you. That's the word is Emmanuel. And that means God is with us. And he likes to live in our lives, our hearts, our minds, when we invite him in. And that's a beautiful, beautiful promise. So now I'm going to sing that song to you about where God lives. Oh, I've got to tune this guitar. Okay, here we go. One day a young boy sat upon Daddy's knee. If you could be God, Daddy, where would you be? In a cloud, in a church, in a boat on the sea, or maybe a sycamore tree, he cried. Do you think you would live in a dream? Well, clouds might be fine, but they never leave heaven. Churches are empty 6 days out of 7. There's not much to do in a boat on the sea, and I don't think I'd live in a tree. My son, I don't think I'd live in a tree. And where does God live? Daddy, where does he go? I do want to find him. I do want to know. I've looked for him here, and I've searched for him there, and I've looked just about everywhere now. He said, I've looked just about everywhere. My son, you might travel the sea or the sod and find many things, but you'll never find God. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot a verse. My son, come to me, and the truth I will tell. Come out with your daddy, come out to the well. Look deep in the water, and what do you see? Why, Daddy, travel the sea or the sod and find many things, but you'll never find God. If you will search with a heart that is true, you will find in you, my son. You will find Jesus living in you. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how people today get very, very busy and they don't take time to know God, right? But God has ways of coming to us and reminding us and showing us. And my last story was about storms, and I'm going to tell you one more part of that storm that was was really understanding that God was with me in a storm. I was in Canada and I was in high school age, and my friends and I, there were three boys and three girls and one very gracious father who offered to take us on a trip, and we went canoeing. So we crowded into a big old station wagon and drove to Canada, and we went on this long 3-day canoe trip. And I must say that father was very brave to take all these teenagers. So we paired up 2 by 2 in the canoes and we rowed for hours and hours. Turns out we went a whole 50 miles in those 3 days. So we did an awful lot of canoeing, of rowing, and using our muscles and our strength in the water. And well, when we got to an island, we would park the canoes and we would cook our food in a little fire, make a fire, and we would eat our food. And then we would get back into the canoe the next day and do another trip. So I felt like Indian. Maybe I'm becoming an Indian because I'm living as close to nature as I've ever lived. You know, we could even put our cup into the water. It was clean in those days, so we thought, and we would drink it. Put our cup in the water, take a drink right from the lake we were in. So one day, it was a final day, we're coming back and the clouds looked pretty gray and stormy. And we saw some lightning far away, not right over our head, but we could see that there was a storm coming. Well, we just kept rowing our canoes until we got back to the shore and we put them up on the canoe stand and we got back in the car and we were driving back to the house where we were going to stay. We turned on the radio, and do you know what we found out? We found out that there was a gale. You know what a gale is? I have a sister, her name is Gail, but this is a storm, and this kind of a gale is very, very dangerous. And in fact, on the radio, they said a whole roof of a hospital came off. Houses were ruined. The storm had done a lot of damage all around us. And how were we safe? We had no idea because we were in that gale and we didn't know it. And it turns out later that as we looked at the weather map, we found out that we were in the eye. We were right in the center of the gale. And everything around us was stormy and scary and bad. But right in the center, it was calm. And I want you to remember that if you keep your center on God, you can stay calm even in a storm. So that is my story for today. If you have time, I could sing you another song, but I don't know if you are still interested in hearing some music today. Would you like another song? Anybody out there answering me? Hello, hello. Hmm.
Yes,
Well,
go ahead.
okay, let's do it. I heard you kids. So here we go. This is a song about being alone in the night, having the rain come, and again, wondering where God is. But he actually shows up. All day I wandered alone. I built a fire to prepare for the night. But as the last light of day disappeared, down from the sky came the rain. My hope was drowned light. My God, why have you forsaken your child? It was all I could bear to be alone in the night. Why did you still send the rain? My child, I'm still at your side. I took your light so you'd look unto me. When will you turn from your cold little fire? When will you ask for the sun? And then the night disappeared. From out of heaven came the song of a bird. There was sunshine in my heart and a voice saying, child, this is yours if you'll ask for the sun. When darkness hides me again, oh Lord, to thee will I cry in the night. Send me your spirit as a shelter from the rain, and send me the light of your sun. Send me the light of your sun. All right, I hope that you will draw some pictures and send them in, and then I can show the pictures that you have made. You can make them about a storm, or some of the stories that I've told, or some of the animals that God has made, anything that has to do with your growing love for Jesus. Okay? All right. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it.